Today is March 16th, 2026. It's 3:30 and we are in the Skillet Room today. If you would like to Zoom in or reach us by phone, it is available at the Town of Orleans website. As required by the open meeting law, we inform you that the town will video and auto record as well as broadcast this public meeting. If anyone intends to video or audio record this meeting, they will be required to inform the chair. Please note the Orleans School Committee may take official action, including votes on any item on this agenda. Call the meeting to order. Do we have any agenda changes?
None this afternoon.
Citizens speak. Members of the public may come to the committee on matters not on the meeting agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes at the chair's discretion. Under the open meeting law, the committee is unable to reply, but may add items presented to future agenda. Is there any citizens speak? Come on. I don't know. Come on. Come on to the dance floor.
Yeah, I think hi. Good afternoon, Mark Matheson, member of the Select Board, member of the Fire Station Building Committee. I just wanted to come, we have a rainy, windy day, so I don't have kids on the water today, so I wanted to take advantage of that, so I could come and see you during this afternoon meeting. I just want to let you know as a committee and the public that might be listening and watching today that I did have an opportunity to speak to your chair over the weekend in regard to the development of the ongoing development of plans for the new fire rescue station in Orleans. And she asked me if I could come and speak with you, just to fill everyone in so they can hear the same thing at the same time from the one person. So let me start this off by saying I want to assure the school committee that nothing is going to be done without the full knowledge and understanding and acquiescence of the school committee in terms of work on the fire station. You know, we do have a school committee member that's on the committee. We do have a parent that's on the building committee as well. Gail Briere has been attending the meetings. Everything's out there. The process has been slow to develop, but now it's accelerating. You know, at the last meeting, we decided on a 2-level building as opposed to 3. We had extensive discussions in January as well as the March 2nd meeting about site development and the needs and the costs and all the things that were engendered in that. One of the things that was kind of eliminated was with the elimination of the 3-level plan. We don't really need to ask the regional school committee for any extension of an easement across middle school property that might have been needed if we did a 3-level design. With a 2-level design, everything is much more contained. The question arose about potential use of a construction access that might include where the driveway is for the elementary school now. The decision on that is really a year down the road. The town is still in active open negotiations and discussions with abutters. Right now, we have a plan that we're working on that will allow us to build a station on the land that we own and control, the new dentist property that the town is purchasing, as well as the original fire station property. Everything works on that site. It's tight. It works. We may need construction access, and if that happens, that will be a full sit-down with the school committee over a period of time to make sure that it is something that works for the school as well as the town. I think the one thing personally I want to say to the committee is I truly believe that this is an issue of trust and respect between all the parties that are involved. I know the history of the original Fire Station Committee. I'm not going to gloss over it, but I am going to say that the committee that exists now is a new committee as I said, with a school committee member and a parent on the committee, as well as the fire chief and DPW chief and other civilians that have engineering, construction expertise. And we are fully committed to be trusted partners with the school committee on anything that gets done that potentially could have an impact on the school. And I personally have said that from day one, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that that continues to be the way that we operate. I hope that you all have an opportunity to just look at the video of the January meeting. If you want, we can start with the 5 iterations that we looked at and the potential pluses and minuses of everything. And then the meeting on March 2nd, where we narrowed it down to the 3-level, 2-level, and decided on the 2-level. And now that's put things into motion. We're meeting again on the 23rd. And as I said, we are still doing so much work on the site that any presumption of, needing so many square feet of school property or the driveway or whatever is just way too early. We're a year away from any of that kind of discussion. There's still a potential of an easement or other property additions to the site that might negate any use of school property for any period of time. So I just want you to know that we're looking to be full trusted partners with you in anything that happens over there. So.
Thank you very much.
Spoken. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Any other citizens speak? Do you have any hands up there, Amanda?
No hands up?
Oh. I love the voice. Okay, moving along. Priority business is the public hearing, FY27, for the Orleans Elementary School. I will need a motion to be made to go into our public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? I need not just a hand raise, your name.
Catherine McNamara, aye.
Gail Brewer, yes.
Ian Mack, yes.
Sandra Roach, yes. All in favor? We officially are going into our public hearing. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. I would just like to start by thanking everyone for being here today. I'm here to highlight a few updates and changes regarding the Orleans Elementary School budget for '27. Superintendent Brand will speak in detail in his budget presentation to give you greater detail, but I'd like to highlight the changes from last week's presentation. First and foremost, our capital line that was $30,000 has been adjusted to reflect a $3,000 reduction based on what the town had in their budget, which was in our operating budget last year. So $27,000 is the correct number. Last week, we initially estimated our fringe benefits for the upcoming fiscal year to be $1,683,217. However, after discussion with the town, we have received new information indicating that our actual estimated fringe benefits will be $1,437,674. If we look back at last year's numbers, the fringe benefits totaled to $1,506,597. This means that we are seeing a 4.57 decrease, which translates to a savings of $68,923. This significant reduction in fringe benefits has positively impacted our bottom line. The total budget for FY27, including both fringe benefits and capital expenses, stands at $6,725,018. With a negative change in the fringe benefits factored in, our adjusted budget comes in at 5.27%. I believe that the OES budget has built by many individuals responsibly and with direction that every child is cared for with equity and care. This time I would like to turn it over to Superintendent Brand, who will give the budget overview.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. If we could bring the presentation up on the screen, please, and just for those that are here in attendance this afternoon and are watching at home. Accompanying the agenda tonight are a number of documents just to bring to your attention that are a complement to this presentation. In addition to the slides, you'll find in the packet the FY27 budget spreadsheet, as well as the justifications. I want to start by extending my thanks to Elaine Pender as the principal for her hard work in getting us to this point, and also to Paul Donlin. I know members, many know Paul and his efforts to help the district through this time of transition within the with the finance department, and his leadership in combination with Elaine has been terrific to help get us to this point in time. Short slide presentation to go through that provides you with an overview of where we're at right now in terms of this budget plan for the 2026-27 school year or fiscal year 27. Next slide, please. Nope, back up, Salem Elementary. First, starting with enrollment, thank you. On this screen of this slide, you can see what we're currently projecting for enrollment for next school year. As I'm sure everyone is well aware, this could change tomorrow, this could change next week, or the months to come, but based upon what we know to be the case right now. I will just bring attention to members of the committee and the community. One of the things that, in terms of forecasting enrollment, that I've come to learn is that currently we don't have a rich array of data to be able to forecast our enrollments going forward across the board. That's not just in Orleans. It is a component of the efficiency and regionalization study, which we have demographers working on, and so this will be helpful data for all of our school communities in Nauset as we think about forecasting the future based upon our current enrollment and birth rates and so on. Next slide, please. This provides you with a snapshot of what is currently being anticipated based upon our known enrollment and staffing needs moving forward. You can see this is a comparison between what the 25-26, the current school year, has in terms of the total number of classroom teachers, the total number of students, and then correspondingly the average class size. And as we roll this forward to next year, you can see what those adjustments would look like based upon the projections. Next slide, please. In terms of budget drivers, we've talked about this in some of our previous presentations, but just to bring some focus to this during the public hearing this afternoon, not necessarily in any particular order, but starting first with the central office salaries. This includes both a reclassification as central office expenses and salaries. First, the salaries. The Director of Communications and Engagement is the only new position that is being put forth as a new position as part of this budget plan for consideration of our communities and our school committees. Last week at the joint school committee, all of our individual school committees did approve the addition of this position, and I spoke at some length during that meeting around the many benefits that I and I know others, members of the committee, think that this position will bring to try and respond to the call for greater transparency and communication across our school system writ large. Central office expenses, this is part of the reclassification, something that emerged rather late in the budget development process, but we spoke about previously. In particular, there were two line items, employer's share of Medicare and Barnstable County retirement, that, as I've come to learn, were previously identified about a year ago as part of the many reclassifications to shift various expenses from the region budget to the central office budget, and for some reason, not exactly at all clear, these two line items were not shifted or moved into the central office budget as was anticipated. They were identified back in early February, and through the recommendation of the subcommittee of the central office budget, they were identified to be shifted over. That did cause an impact on all of our elementary budgets across the board, but certainly in so doing that creates itself as somewhat of a budget driver. Special education tuition, something that we've also talked about at some length for pre-K, is certainly those costs associated with that program for which we are obligated as a public school district to provide are going up. I'll just take this opportunity again to clearly indicate that this is a program that I think we absolutely, as a school district, need to take a closer look at and intend to do so between now and the start of next budget season. Out-of-district transportation has also seen an increase and thus serves as a driver for this fiscal plan going forward. as does special education collaborative tuitions, all of which, of course, we previously talked about at some length. But when you take a look at the grand picture or overall picture, these individual items certainly serve as a budget driver as we move this budget forward. Part of what's included in that is, of course, our contractual obligations, not called out on the slide. We are going into the third year of a 3-year collectively bargained agreement with the Nauset Educators Association, and that has a built-in cost of living adjustment of 3.25% going into next year. Next slide, please. So when you break down this total for the Orleans Elementary School budget and you parse out the different components that the total operating budget supports, this slide provides you with an overview of what that looks like in the broad categories. I won't read all of the numbers in the interest of time, but you can see, starting with the top left, personnel, a very obviously large component, as is the case for any of our school budgets, and I would argue probably everyone across the Commonwealth, but such a large proportion of it goes towards supporting the staff and faculty who work day in and day out in the provision of all services under the roof of Orleans Elementary School. Utilities is a component, smaller in magnitude, but certainly still one that we obviously have to build into the budget plan. And that also holds true for transportation. We break this down into two different ways for members of the community to see. First, it includes the transportation for our, think of this as the big yellow buses, regular transportation, at just a little over $155,000 budgeted for next school year. There's also special education transportation. This is for the provision of transportation for those students that we are unable to educate within the walls of Orleans Elementary School. And that number you can see there, a little bit over $173,000. Textbook materials and supplies, as part of this budget plan, currently sits at $142,453. Special education tuition and pre-kindergarten tuition, the top right-hand side of your slide here, you can see at just a little under $370,000. This goes towards both the pre-K program tuition, as well as students that are in out-of-district placements not being educated within OES. Repairs and maintenance is factored in as well for the overall budget plan, as is building leadership in the central office budget. That's the bottom right-hand corner, just above the grand total. This goes towards helping support the operations of those staff in the central office. That includes those that are in finance and accounting, payroll, senior administrators such as myself and others working within the central office. When you roll that up together, you can see the grand total of a little over $5.2 million for fiscal year '27 as the collective operating budget proposal for Orleans Elementary School. The last slide, please. This provides you with a little bit of a different overview in terms of the various expenses in a comparative sense from fiscal year '26 to '27 and what the overarching change is. That's the fourth column from the left, and then the overall percentage increase, regular day, special education, and so on. Fringe benefits also included as part of this slide, and the chair talked about that previously, as well as capital. So that concludes my presentation for the slide presentation today. Certainly, though, with Paul's help and Elaine's, happy to answer any questions that members of the committee or committee might have this afternoon. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
How should we do this?
I know.
Microphone?
You're in the ceiling.
For the camera or for the, just shout?
Well, maybe, should I just put a table here quick?
We won't have a microphone. I guess because the room is microphone.
Correct.
So
They're up there.
we'll just shout. Just for a couple clarifications or reminders, if you would, please. So maybe go back, if you would, to the, I'll get there yet. Where things, this page, if you would, Dr. Brin.
Thank you. The slide
not
with the graphical, yes. thank you.
Where does every dollar go? That page. Next one. There we go.
Thank you.
So, could you clarify, I think what I understood is both for transportation as well as the tuition for the special ed, that these are off campus. In other words, these are not for any special ed kids who actually are taught in the building.
That's correct.
That's a clarification?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct, yes.
So how many students are we talking about in, just as a round number, rough number, or is it 5, 10, 15, 20? I have no idea, roughly.
I want to step back a minute, and I believe that the special education transportation is more than the out-of-district placement.
It
Is it not?
Yes,
But
There's
it's,
only one student out of district.
we have students that go to SAIL program.
Okay.
At both the kindergarten, K to 2,
and the, yes.
and the,
And do we
3 to
have
5.
students in that program?
yes.
Can I would assume this number also includes, there are students who are provided transportation to school, to OES on campus, that require
That may help.
specialized transportation.
okay.
Like the small buses?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is a mix of
Yes.
those types of, that type of transportation, as well as some of the further away as well, okay.
Right.
Just to, and to clarify, sorry, to interrupt, but the tuition piece, just for the first, that's for students that are receiving education outside of the school facility,
Okay,
so I'm sorry.
so that one has a more defined number.
Yes.
Okay, and is that a large or a small number?
Elaine, do you know
The
that-
tuition?
For
The tuition
The
number,
number of students.
of students who are educated outside of the school.
the one that's the $368,000.
That would be your preschool tuition, which would be 2 or 3 children, and 1 out-of-district placement.
And one other, okay.
Yeah.
So again, just trying to understand
Yeah.
what we're talking about here, okay. And then, the other question too that I was curious about, 1,000 years ago, before most of you were born, we all walked to school. So I was curious about whether the transportation is a requirement and whether, do we have to budget it for all the kids, whether they use it or not?
Yes.
And that was again another clarification. So even if somebody walks to school, it has to be budgeted to accommodate everybody, even those that live across the street.
Yeah, especially if there's like, we have to close unexpectedly. We have to, we have a leak and we have to have all the students go home half-day, we have to call it. We have to make sure that all students are assigned to a bus and can be transported.
Yeah, okay. And I know you do have the walk-to-school program where that, but that's a separate
Walking Wednesday.
situation. Yeah, because I thought that there was a different, life is different than it was a very, very long time ago. So, that, and then,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Through the chair.
Yes?
At the end of the year report, we do have to report out over 1.5 miles for all the
Oh,
students.
interesting.
All the students that are over 1.5 miles or all the students that are under 1.5 miles. So there is a requirement for that, but
but
Well,
somebody's
these-
collecting that data
Yeah,
for their purposes,
right.
whatever that might be.
Right.
Okay. All right, then I had another question and I'm struggling to find it.
Lynn, can you excuse 1 second? Excuse me to our people above, it's saying no signal on this TV screen.
Okay, thanks, I'll be right down.
Thanks. It's like Oz.
Oh,
I love that.
probably because they knew it was me, right? Okay. So, back to the question on the budget drivers page. The central office expenses, again, understanding that now that comes down to the elementary school, but presumably one would see if one looked in there carefully in the right place, that there's a reduction somewhere else in the budget because it's simply moved from one account to another.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we wait for this? Is this recording?
I don't know.
This is on air.
It's public hearing.
I know, but it says on there, but this is not.
I'm guessing that's just our TV, like, I think
I
we're still
blew it
being
out, right?
recorded, but
I'm gonna go right down, I think we have some loose wires on the TV. Are we still being recorded? Yes, everything's still working.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
So I can still see and hear you.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
well, that's a
I
good
can still
sign.
see and hear you clearly. So I would like to point out, Lynn, that in FY '27, based on the October 1, 25 enrollment report, Orleans pays 7.68% of the entire central office budget. I just thought you'd be interested in that number.
Okay, thank you. And that's based on the enrollment, yeah.
Yes?
Under the Orleans Special Education, that 38% increase, can you describe what it is about the special ed that it went up so much this year? Particular set of students, or?
Would you like to?
I can talk to the dollars, but, go ahead.
We've got some loose wires, I apologize.
That's okay, no problem. It's just you.
Elaine, could you repeat the question, please?
Sure, under the Orleans Special Education, Gail, 30.49% increase. What is it about this past year that made special ed go up so high?
Elaine, did you
Was it a
want to-
particular class of students, or?
I can take it and then Paul can, but there was increases in the preschool expenses and as well as an out-of-district placement that we did not have last year, or we didn't have to after the budget.
So one out-of-district placement, plus its transportation, along with the, did you say 2 or 3 pre-K students
The
that were going up?
the preschool
Site.
went up.
That's the $395,000. So that's 4 students, more or less?
I don't know the exact numbers,
Yeah.
but yes. And it's based on, pre-K is based on a 3-year rolling average per agreement. Is that not correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
And
Would you say that, to describe the cost of the outer district placement is the larger portion of that driver, or is it the?
As the chair has pointed out, the mandated funding is $195,037. And that includes some of the transportation for special education, plus some of the tuition and increase in the $368,965, of which $195,037 is mandated.
What does that mean?
So, that number, that $195,000 is just the increase for this year. So that's the increase in our out-of-district transportation. That's line number 3075, that's $69,000. That number one, that's that increase. The increase for our PK, preschool program is $52,632. That's line 3088. And the increase for special ed tuition, 3098 is the line item, that's $73,405. Those are just the increases. That's that portion.
So what you're looking at here is the total. What Sassy just mentioned were just the increases.
Yeah.
I get that, I understand that, but when you say mandated, what does that mean?
They have an IEP, and I think Elaine can probably do this a lot better than I can. I'm a individualized education plan for each one of these students, so it says by law that there's certain things have to be done and signed by the school department and by the parent.
For the particular student that shows
Yep,
up?
for every,
Okay.
each one of those students.
So if there were 2, you'd have 2 times 2.
Well, there's a lot more IEPs than just these ones, but these are really specialized
Yeah.
Yeah.
individual education plans.
The tuitions for these usually private placements they can be very high.
I understand that, just the terminology
Sure,
mandated.
sure.
I didn't-
Yeah,
Right.
mandated in the sense of the
Yeah.
provision of services
Yeah,
for
the provision of
students.
services,
Yes.
not the dollar.
And in this case, in a different placement.
Okay.
Do you have anything, Ed?
Ed? No?
No?
Okay, thanks.
I would wonder if there's any way to extrapolate out what it costs to educate a normal student at OES versus what it's costing us to educate the special ed kids. Because
Well-
as it is, when we on the finance committee take these figures and come up with our $45,000, for a child, in some respects, that's very misleading. That because it is those special ed kids that are really making this, especially when we have a couple that are wildly expensive, make it look as though everybody in the school is getting that $40,000 education, which is not the case at all. We have this small group special ed that just really ratchet up.
If I can, I'll start, and then I'll certainly ask Paul that, it's a great question, it's a great point. The data that the Department of Education gathers for all public school districts across the state, as some may know, some may not, there's a number of different categorizations and coding for those, including the breaking apart of special education, regular education expenses. That information is all very publicly accessible if one wants to take the time to find, on the Department of Education website. And you can see, to your sort of your overarching question, for Monomoy, for Nauset, for Sandwich, what that looks like, what that breakdown looks like, and their expenses for those different categories. Right.
It's all driven by the individual education plan, and I don't know how many individual education plan, but there's more than just these number of students. There's probably, of the 150 students, we maybe
Is it
75?
40.
40? Okay.
40 kids.
And then they have a grid for these services. So each individual student has a pull-out for speech and language. He has a pull-out for physical therapy, occupational therapy, OT, PT. They have a pull-out, they have to go up for 20 minutes to go over here, half an hour over there. It's all put on a grid, and we have to have specialized education teachers just for those types of services, and they all add up. There's a grid that Matt and Elaine work with and say, okay, based on the grid of the IEPs that we have in this school at this time, I'm going to need an extra 0.5 occupational therapists. I'm going to need an extra, not an extra, or I'm going to be a less. So it's up and down all the time, and they're always looking at a lot of those IEPs and the grids to figure all that out. So is that pretty much the way it goes?
So for the layperson to conclude, you can't split them out, because if, let's say for rough purposes, out of the 150 students, 50 have some element of special education, how do you split them apart, You could, but it doesn't, but the average won't mean much,
No.
And, Elaine, could you speak to Nick a little bit about the tiers, just to break it down just a little bit more for the IEPs and what kind of work goes into those tiers?
Sure, absolutely. In school, some of you came for a tour and saw that we have a lot of people working in different capacities. Especially in our youngest students, what we're trying to do is ensure that we're giving them interventions or supports with their reading or math skills or even behavioral skills to kind of even the playing field. In other words, you may not have had exposure, you may not have been developmentally ready to learn your sounds, your letters, your numbers. So we support students with skill work to try to give them that, what we call intervention, which would be the tier 2 intervention. Tier 1 is the classroom. Tier 2 would be maybe a little bit of, support with going over those letters. Maybe you didn't do it when you were younger, maybe you just weren't ready for it. And if we can work with students to support their skills and strengthen their skills, that supports them in general educational setting to do well in class. If after a certain period of time, those skills are not coming at an adequate pace and they're not commensurate with the group that they're working with, or there seems to be a question about perhaps why it's more difficult to gain those skills, we would most likely, as a team with the parents, decide to do an evaluation to determine if there's any underlying reason for that inability to gain the skills. If there is a developmental, cognitive, behavioral, emotional disability of any kind. And then if we did through evaluation process of a whole team testing a student, determine there was a disability of some sort, then we create the whole legal document, the IEP, and then that's why we're mandated then to provide the services so that all students can gain what they need to in school. But we do also support students to gain skills when they don't have a disability as well. So we're dedicated to ensuring all students progress and get where they need to go.
And I'd also like to just highlight something that I believe OES does really, really well, is that we have, and Elaine has built a structure here at the school that she spoke to, this early intervention with the students at the K and 1 level, where they're meeting and bringing their needs up, is preventing, in the finance world, a greater expense to us later down the line. So by having the staff in place there at an early intervention setting, we're meeting the needs and bringing those students up to the level where they need to be, so later down the road, even here or assessed later through in the middle school or even in the high school, interventions much more, in, again, finance term, costly interventions become apparent because those needs weren't met at that very early age. The foundational building blocks there, as you guys all know, if that foundation isn't built right away, it just wreaks havoc through the vertical alignment there. So OES does such a great job at it. We don't see it as, we see the product of it, of fantastic students coming out of OES. But what you don't see is the savings, if you will, because the expenses were incurred later on in the student's life. So, and that makes a huge impact. More importantly, in the quality of life for our students. And that's really what it's all about.
And if I may again, the individual education plan is a succession plan. So it's, Brewster is talking, at the pre-K level, is talking to the K people at Orleans, in Eastham, and Wellfleet, and Brewster. And then when the 5th grader leaves Orleans, and goes to the middle school, all that file, and they're talking to each other. So when a kid comes in from Arizona, he or she has an individual IEP, an individual education plan, and that is read by the special education teachers here, and we gotta add that child to their grid, and it so on and so forth. It just keeps going. I think it was leave no child behind, and so this has obviously been the model. So it's been going on for a while.
So if you get a kid from Arizona, I understand the geography, but if you get a kid from homeschooling, you'd have the same thing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Could be.
There has to be a meeting, right? A team meeting on that homeschool child to make sure that their services are being, and some of the times you have to send out services to a homeschool child. So it's very, very complicated.
Wow.
Explain that. So if you have a homeschool child that can't read, you have to send.
If they require special education services, we're required to provide them.
And you, okay.
Gail?
So I would just like to say that the school system starts out very early in trying to identify children who have special needs. So as early as 2.9, we do an early intervention assessment. And based on that, some children are identified as being eligible to be part of that integrated preschool. And there are 7 special education children that can be in a classroom for pre-K in the integrated program, along with 8 community friends. So the community friends don't have an IEP. The children who are identified in early intervention have an IEP, the plan. So then they come into the school, and every year there's an evaluation, a reevaluation that's done as to whether they continue to need services. Now, if you provide interventions, sometimes those children are able to get off an IEP. Children are on IEPs for speech and language, physical therapy, occupational therapy, reading deficiencies, mathematical deficiencies, processing. It could be behavior. What else could it be?
Emotional, mental health.
Yeah, emotional issues. So it's the type of thing that because they get on an IEP, doesn't mean that they stay on it forever. The more services that we can provide for those children early on to be able to help them to be able to access the curriculum without these special services, then we've really been successful with those children. I just thought it would be, interesting for you to understand how this all comes into play.
And, one more thing that, Elaine got to see the other day during the tour, and I would love for you guys to be able to come to see it with your own eyes, is the collaboration within the staff. For me, I think that's the most important thing. All those kids we try to get them in. If they're pulled out, we try to get them to be with their peers as much as possible. Our goal is to try to make sure that the students of our town are well taken care of, that are given the services, that if they do have special ed services, that we try to keep them in the building. Some of those children have siblings. Our goal, and Elaine's goal with the incredible staff she has, is to make sure that we try to give these kids what they need in our building. And that is a great collaboration throughout the different rooms in the school, and you get to see that. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, it seems to me that somehow it would be useful if there were some sort of a 3-paragraph explanation of how the school works in those respects. Because, when people get the budget, and like us divide by students, they say, well, reading, arithmetic,
Yeah.
And when I went to school 50 years ago, I didn't have any of this stuff, So
That's
you don't
nice.
know that it's there,
Well, I think that, we as a school, and, we do our best to protect every child. And nobody wants to be singled out. And it's very hard to sometimes discuss the things that are happening without sharing private information about the families of these children.
Not true, but what, the overall program,
Yeah.
without getting into specific cases, is something that might be a good thing for people to know about.
Yeah.
Because, that explains a lot
Yes.
about the cost, but maybe A is the quality and
Yes.
B is the cost.
Yeah.
And part of the thing is that the budget review, the numbers always add up. I mean, I've been doing this is my 7th round, right? The numbers add up and they are reasonable and you can't do anything else, But what's behind the numbers is something that people don't get,
To Nick's point, if we're adding a director of communications and engagement, I would think one of their first priorities would be helping to explain why education is costing what it does, A, and B, if you compare the Orleans education budget to that of, Eastham, Brewster, Wellfleet, Orleans is significantly higher than those other towns. Why is it that Orleans is incurring these expenses? And it's not just this year because of that one increase in the 30%. This is ongoing. We're always, 20% higher than our other towns, and we have equivalent sized school. So in terms of communication, I think it's important if, for you to be communicating this to the people out there as this town is looking at, expenses coming down our way.
Anyhow,
That's
that's
us.
very, very educational, thank you.
We appreciate your support and your partnership. It's important.
So, as I said before, every $50,000 is 1 percentage point. It's a $5 million budget, operating budget, 5.2. So every 52,000, that's that's 0.7 of a teacher nowadays. It could be a para. If we have to add a para for a 1-to-1 student that comes in from Arizona, it's going to cost us $50,000, and then it's going to cost a little bit more probably here on the fringe benefits. On a $5 million budget, one person, one teacher, it could be two percentage points. So,
Could I just, and I appreciate the comments around the communication. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's, you know, that as it's about numbers, budgets, but it's about also telling the story. And I think, you know, that, and there's a way with a skilled person to be able to do that and explain such that even a person who's never been in education can understand the totality of it, and that includes telling a story as it relates to budget. And I wholeheartly believe that it's possible to do, and it's important to do. The greater understanding, right, hopefully the greater support. And coming with that are good questions to help further educate, the populace to understand what this is all going for. So it will be, should we have the good fortune to bring that position on board, it will be one of the primary areas that I'll work with he or she on. Thank you.
And I'm related to that, but since this is a joint public hearing, and I would hope some people are listening to this, what's the status of what's going on? Could you speak to the status of what's going on with bringing a whole pre-K system into the Orleans Elementary School?
And I think Glenn actually just started to speak about, do you want to?
Yeah, I will. So right now, I appreciate the question. Right now, the structure in Nauset is, we have this pre-K program that we've mentioned a few times, and it's physically located in Brewster, more because of space availability, as I've come to learn, than anything else. It's a program that it's open to and has students from all of our 4 towns going to it. We need to take a holistic look at what the future, from my perspective, and that is shared by others, around what the pre-K program should look like going forward for Nauset Public Schools. Is it housed in one location, as it currently is? Is it incorporated into each of our elementary schools or some of our elementary schools, as you could find in other school districts? Some have it centralized like we do as well too. That's not terribly atypical. But it is something that, with my conversation with our principals, elementary principals and chairs, we talked about a few months ago about really formulating, I don't know if it's a task force or subcommittee, but some entity to look specifically at where we want to go with this program in the future. The full intent to do so starting in the spring through the summer, so that we can get to the budget buildings, the kickoff of the budget building season next fall, if there are any changes that are going to be recommended to school committees. Some committees are talking about universal pre-K. I don't know that that's something that is, I haven't gathered that that's been a source of much conversation necessarily here, but whether it's universal pre-K or just it's, let's think about the possibility of building these programs or housing these programs within each elementary school. It's really something that we have to explore and consider.
if I may, it's also important to note, I think a couple of years back, Gail, it was put into the region budget.
Yes.
Pre-K was there because I think Brewster was shouldering the load, I guess, for the fringe benefits, maybe, so maybe you can tell you a little bit more about that.
So, up until last year, the preschool program costs were in the region-only budget. That included the salaries, the benefits, everything to do with the pre-K program, supplies and materials. And the region only really felt that it was unfair that it be in that budget. Now, I lost my train of thought. So what happened was, and the reason why it was in that budget was because the region was the entity that could be consistent across the 4 towns. All right, every town offers some different benefits. Orleans benefits are not the same thing as the region, are not the same thing as Brewster. So we worked through that to be able to split the cost, to assign it to the elementary school. And that was one of the reasons why our budget went up so significantly last year, along with the reclassification that took place last year. So I think that now all of those pre-K costs are in our budget. And if we are going to have the pre-K, if it ends up in our school, then it wouldn't be split across all, it likely wouldn't be split across all of the towns, because it would just be our kids,
Yeah.
and open it up to some of our community friends that could be in there. But those decisions are still in the works. I mean, it would certainly add to our enrollment, and all of us felt that it would be nice to have the preschool in our school, so that those children become part of that community from 3 years old on, or 4 years old on. Right now, they're all housed in Brewster, even though our children are from Orleans and Eastham and Wellfleet. So it would be really nice if that could come back to our schools.
Yeah, makes sense. Because people learn about the school and quality of the school from parents from early on, you know? Instead of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're working on it.
So maybe by the next May's budget, May 27th?
And this is just one more thing, and this is across all Nauset Public Schools. Could you speak about our software? Our software is going to place, we will have all the correct DESI coding, so that's all coming into place. So there'll be more clarity, correct coding, and that will be across all schools.
Yes.
So all of them will have the same chart of accounts. Yeah. Because I think 2 years ago I tried to compare, and it was, I gave up.
We are launching that system that was talked about, I gather, last year, a fair bit on July 1st. So a lot of work behind the scenes to use both systems right now, to be testing it out. It, as I understand, will greatly improve financial reporting across the districts with coding, classification, and just the reporting functions that we will have access to.
And we'll have compatibility with the town, we'll be able to send the files over. Right now, we're running parallels, payroll and accounts payable, not all accounts payable. Certain accounts payable vendors, we're running parallels to make sure that everybody can hit the ground running on July 1st, so. Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I would like to announce the closing of our public hearing. The public will no longer be called upon for question or comments. The public hearing will be closed, and the school committee will continue their discussion of the FY27 budget until there's a motion to vote on it. Last chance.
So I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Gail Brewer, yes?
Ian Minnick, yes.
Kevin McNair, yes.
Sandra Roach, yes.
Okay.
Closed. Now we're back. Now what happens? Now we talk. All right, discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the FY '27 OES budget as presented.
All right, so there are no questions, right, Kathy?
I mean, that was a speed question.
So
Yeah.
just to clarify, that FY27 number is for the total budget, fringe benefits, and capital, because that's the way that we voted. $6,725,018, which represents a $336,560 increase, and it represents a 5.27% increase. That's the motion.
Okay,
This one here,
Any discussion?
any discussion regarding that?
it's this one, right?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
right here.
Any discussion? All in favor? Right?
Yep, aye.
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 Do we say, it's not,
Aye.
but not, you don't have to,
No.
okay. All in favor? Any-
Unanimously.
Passes unanimously. Thanks, everybody.
All right, I'm gonna finish off the meeting.
Yep, I got it. All right, we have no reports and information today. and nor future agenda items, as this was a pop-up meeting just for our public hearing. Our next meeting date is April 13th, and looking for adjournment.
Are you going to the select board meeting when?
Oh, yes,
Thank you
March.
very much.
Thank you very much for reminding me. March 25th at 5. I don't know if we know the time yet.
I've seen maybe 5:45, the 5 o'clock hour.
Somewhere around 5 on March 25th.
A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.